So how many of you guys have fan characters or have messed around with making fan characters? Or I know a lot of people will just call them OCs. I use the term interchangeably, but that's going to be the topic that we're talking about today. And I know it seems like a very odd out of nowhere one, but I'll explain where the idea to talk about that specifically came from in a moment. First up, let's do our usual, hey, what you drawing? Today, we have another one of my characters for Trace. This is Poppy. She is going to be, essentially, going into this, there are going to be more, there's going to be some, like, fantasy RPG elements to an extent pulled into this. In particular, we have different, essentially, like, different classes, RPG classes. Poppy is ultimately going to be our warrior, and she is honestly one that I really like already. I don't have very much for her yet because she's very new. She's the most recently designed one. I may do like a character design session kind of video on one of the next ones. I think that would be really cool to kind of show my design process for how I end up with a character design that I really enjoy and really like. So we might be doing that next, but I do like Poppy. She's going to be the group's warrior, and I ended up kind of giving her a little bit of a stockier build. She actually is a little bit on the chubby side because I really like that for her, but she's a little bit bulkier, she's a little bit on the chubby side, and she is a tennis player. You know, there's always some people who are athletic but still have a little bit extra cushion. And that's the kind of person that she is build-wise, and I love her. I think she's turned out very pretty, very cute. And the fact that she's a tennis player is going to come into play a little bit with wielding her weapon, because I love that idea. She uses some of the motions she's gotten used to for that as her basis for learning how to properly use her weapon and utilize her strength. And so that's where I am with her. I'm going to figure out one of the next ones soon. It might be the next video, it might not, that I do the character design session for. But now that I've got that out of the way and talking about that, oh wait, there was something else I wanted to talk about. I am very excited because I got my first patron on Patreon, and I am so excited, and I'm scatterbrained because of that. Because it threw me off so much. I legit, not even kidding you, I cried. I was overwhelmed, and I cried a little bit. I couldn't help it. I'm so excited, and I'm so thrilled. And I am currently, please keep in mind at the moment, I am currently working on reworking my Patreon and getting more things set up. That's why I think it's linked on my channel page, but I don't have the link really anywhere else as of yet, I don't think, because I am working on revamping it and detailing it, and sorry, I dropped my phone. I'm very, very excited about that, and I kind of shook Raven awake. I kind of was like, oh my god, I have a patron. I'm all, sorry, sorry. Okay, now that I've talked about that, let's get into the main video. So first off, what got me really thinking about this? Hilariously enough, I had no idea what topic I was going to do for my video today. I really didn't, and as such, this one's kind of off the cuff. I'm still trying to get to where I do more bullet point kind of scripts, because I do function best at least with those. But this one was just out of nowhere, and I just kind of wanted to jump in and go for it. And this one, we're talking about fan characters, original characters, OCs, FCs, whatever one you want to call it. I use them interchangeably for the most part, but they are a huge part for me of character creation and my creative process. They have been for a long time, and what got me on the topic of this particular subject and thinking about this and why this came to me as a good video was actually the fact that this evening, Raven and I are planning on going to go and see the Barbie movie. We're gonna go to the drive-in, we're gonna go see Barbie, and I'm honestly excited about that, despite the fact I was not a Barbie kid. My sister was. Andy was a big-time Barbie kid. She loved them. I hated them. I was a Hot Wheels kid through and through. I was never very girly. Makes a lot more sense now that I'm an adult and I'm looking back on it like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You absolutely oblivious NB. But I always preferred Hot Wheels, but I think of Barbie and it makes me think of my childhood. And another thing that my brain goes back to with childhood is thinking about when I started creating characters. when I really started creating characters and making up my own characters, one of the biggest ways I started that was fan characters. And I know you get so many people who just get completely up in arms about fan characters, even against people who are not hurting anybody. Like, people get so much hate for it, even if they're not. You have the ones, of course, who flip out, and I have no trouble with, I know some people get up in arms if somebody's shipping their fan character with a canon character. I personally couldn't care less if somebody is shipping their fan character with a canon character. I don't care. OCX canon does not bother me whatsoever. I think it's dumb how people do. Like, if somebody's not attacking other people, then I don't care. Let them play with their own little world. Let them do things like that. It doesn't hurt anybody. So long as they're not attacking people, can we not? Especially because half the time the people getting attacked and the people doing these things are kids or someone who's delving into it to use it as a coping mechanism. So I think that people need to stop and maybe calm down a little bit. You know, especially Sorry Not Sorry. 9 times out of 10, baby's first character is gonna be a fan character. Usually they see a show, and it may not be a self-insert, it might be a self-insert. Some of mine started out as self-inserts. That doesn't make them bad, and also I'll do another video on self-insert OCs later, because I have plenty of those, and I still don't see a problem with those. You know, people freak out over too much. But baby's first character is usually going to be a fan character, and I had plenty of them. And that was how I learned to really get excited about drawing, how I learned to really get excited about creating characters. And were some of them Mary Sue's? Yes, some of them were Mary Sue's. It's just, when you first make your first character, you don't know what you're doing. You don't have any idea what you're doing, and if you think you do, then you really don't. Let me give a great example. One of my first characters was actually, it was a DC Comics Batman fan character. I'm going to have to draw her at one point. And I say draw her, I have a ton of them now, just because it's a fun way to express myself. And she started out as a little bit of a self-insert. Little bit. Now she's really not. I've done completely differently. Because you have some kids who see their favorite superhero and they want to be the superhero. You have others who think it would be awesome to fight alongside their favorite superhero. You know, work in tandem with them. I was in that camp. And as a kid, I was obsessed with Batman the Animated Series. Okay, I say as a kid like I'm not still obsessed with Batman the Animated Series. I am a comic nerd. I am a huge dork. I always will be. And I'm proud of it because I'm done letting people insult me for things like that. Because, you know what? Forget you. You're trying to make fun of me because I'm passionate about something and because I enjoy something. But I really, to this day, have never regretted making fan characters or original characters. I went through a point in time where I was very embarrassed about it, even though, you know, despite that, a large part of my DeviantArt gallery for a long time, and I think some of them are still on there, was made up of my fan characters because I was more comfortable drawing my characters than I was canon characters. That was another reason why I did them, because I felt like I couldn't draw the actual canon characters correctly, so I was afraid to. So instead, I made my own characters. I used to use that to learn how to practice making comics. It can be such a cathartic thing for a kid, especially if there's a lot of stuff going on in their lives. Even for an adult, it can be something that's very cathartic and an escape. And it can help them get the skills they need. I don't think there's any issue with people making fan characters so long as they're not harassing other people with them. Because I've seen the petty little, well, you can't have your character with that character because my character's with that character, blah, 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 blah. We all have seen that discourse. It's dumb, and it's usually stupid kids being stupid kids. Or sometimes it's older people, not gonna lie. But I will say, there's no problem with it. Like, you had my first one, my real first one, which was my little Batman fan character. Her hero name was Blue Jay, because I loved the idea I made a little Batman sidekick, and especially because I loved Robin. I love Batman, I loved Robin. Dick Grayson was always my favorite, will always be my favorite of the DC Comics characters, hands down. And I do enjoy the other versions of Robin. I love the other versions of Robin as well. I love Jason Todd. That's Raven's favorite. And I love Tim Drake and Stephanie Brown, and Damian has grown on me at this point. because I was a little iffy about him at first, but he's grown on me at this point. I don't see much of a problem with making fan characters, because I would go through and I would write stories, and sometimes they would follow plots from the different episodes of the animated series or plots from the comics, but it would have my character too, and I would have a ton of fun figuring out how that would change things, the things that would be different in that. And it was so much fun. It's a great way to expand outside your comfort zone sometimes and practice and be creative. And even if you have friends who also make fan characters, it can be a great way for you and your friends to interact and, maybe do role plays with things like that. It's so much fun, and I think people spaz about it too much, because there's really not an issue with making fan characters so long as nobody's being a jerk. And I've seen way too many instances of kids especially being discouraged from making fan characters because, oh, it's not creative enough. Oh, it's not original. You're not being original, so it's stupid. Oh, your character's a Mary Sue. Oh, they mess up the flow of everything. Like, if they're having fun and they're not bothering people, go away. If they're having fun and they're not bothering anybody, they're not harassing people because of something to do with their fan character, stop. Let kids be kids. It's how they explore things. That can be those kinds of people. A lot of times, fanfic is where I've really seen the biggest pushback against fan characters. But a lot of times you have, and a great example of one reason it's nice to let kids make fan characters is honestly representation. It could be their first real foray into making sure that, trying to create a character that represents someone like them in that particular media. A great example is the way that a lot of female characters in some canon media are portrayed. Either they're the background characters, or they're stereotypes, or they're just the token girl, or something like that. Because I didn't really acknowledge and come to terms with the fact that I was non-binary until I was an adult. Therefore, when I was younger, I'd see all this stuff that I love, but there were hardly any female characters, like even tomboy characters. And for me, that was a big deal. And that was one reason why I made fan characters, because it was nice to see a character like me, which is why a lot of kids' first characters are self-inserts. But it was nice to see a character that was someone like me that I could kind of stick into this form of media, especially with the way I hyper-focus on things and take a special interest in certain things. It was nice, and it helped me cope with things. It helped me work through things. It still does. That's why, not gonna lie, even as an adult, I make fan characters. I will show them on the channel. I know for a fact I've shown them on the channel before. I may not have been open about the fact they were fan characters just because people are gonna be people and people are gonna be jerks. But really all of this is just to say, let kids have fun with things. It really doesn't hurt anything. Yeah, if somebody's using their characters and things like that to be a jerk, let them know that's not cool. If they're not receptive, just ignore, block, and move on. But for the most part, let kids be kids. Let kids enjoy things and explore things the way that they can, because that's how you get kids that are more creative. It's like, when I was younger, things on the internet weren't nearly as prominent. They really weren't. It wasn't as big of a deal. Yeah, we had DeviantArt and I would post on there sometimes, but I only had a handful because I always hated how things looked for scanning, and then I would forget to update things for forever because I didn't really start doing digital art until I was out of high school. And because of that, because I didn't have that pushback, it was easier for me to make, and people my age, to make fan characters and it not be a big deal. And I feel like people need to calm down more and let it not be a big deal again. Frankly, it's just such a good thing for kids to get to explore, and even adults to get to explore, especially if they come to art at an older age and didn't really have as much of that experience when they were a kid. So if I keep going, I'm just going to talk in circles again because I'm good at that. But that's about all I wanted to say on this, but I am passionate about this topic, and if anybody's interested, I'll talk more about fan characters and things like that, because this was a very vague video just talking about the concept of, OCs and all that. I do have a video planned for, OCX canon characters and shipping purposes and things like that I want to do in the future. But for right now, that's it. If any of you guys have any fan characters that you really enjoy or that you have a lot of fun with, let me know. Let me know down below. below. I'd love to hear about them, honestly, because I like hearing other people's fan characters, or honestly series that maybe you made your first character for just because it was a lot of fun. Because I'd love to see what other people's introduction to things like that were. Because mine was, like I said, mine was Batman. Dragon Ball Z was another one that it was big for. Also Yu-Gi-Oh! And Beyblade. I am showing my age here, very much so. But that's about it for this. So I do want to say, thank you guys so much for watching, and a big thanks to my first ever patron, who I am still so excited and so happy about, and just absolutely floored still. So thank you so much to Inside Chaos on Patreon. Not only my first patron at all, but also my very first $20 patron. And thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!